USC's best player and a potential NBA lottery pick is out for at least a month. The Galaxy have finally rid themselves of a final link to a decade of tragedy. And how the hell did the Rams remodel themselves so quickly? Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. So it is January 12th, 2024, and I gotta tell you, this day is so jam-packed with news that a Dodgers trade didn't even make the lead of this particular episode. Do you like being in the know about LA sports? Well, if you do, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It lets you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means, comment, because I do try to get back with you guys when you do. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Honestly, just not a good night for the Angelenos. Phoenix 127, Lakers 109. D'Angelo Russell led with 19 points, but the Lakers approached the midpoint of the season by sliding under 500 yet again. Meanwhile, the Kings skid reaches 7 games after they lose in Florida 3-2 in overtime. Even worse, the game-winning goal for the Panthers came with 0.7 seconds left in the overtime period. Ouch. Utah 90, UCLA 44. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the final score and I was watching it on TV. Guys, just be real. Brace yourself for a potential historically bad season. Utah went on a 20-3-2 run. The Bruins conceded 57 points in the second half. Dylan Andrews led UCLA with 9 points. You heard me, 9. Meanwhile, today the Clippers are at Memphis at 5 o'clock. And by the way, yeah, bad night for the Bruins. But if you think things are already better over at USC, no. Isaiah Collier is expected to at least a month, perhaps 6 weeks, with an injured hand. Because the Trojan season just hasn't been whack enough as it is. The thing with Collier is he is a potential top pick in the upcoming NBA draft. On certain big boards, he is listed as the 3rd best player to go into the draft. There's a couple that have him at number 1. He leads USC as a freshman in assists. He is 2nd in scoring. So he has lived up to the hype that he had when he was the crown jewel of the Trojans recruiting class. But here's a disturbing question. What if the Trojans just fall completely off the map in his absence? What happens? If you're Collier and USC has no shot to go to March Madness, do you come back? Or do you just say, you know what? I'm just going to go pro. Now, to be clear, I'm not forecasting that, because if there's one thing we can at least say about the Trojans, they are deep at guard. Boogie Ellis, Bronny James, remember him? But I would caution you about Bronny James. Over the last 2 games, he has scored just 2 points combined. So, is all lost for USC? I don't want to go there, but this is a hit. Collier has been everything the Trojans needed. Where would they be without him? We're about to find out. In a terse tweet, 16 words that didn't even include the phrase, "We thank you for your contributions," the Galaxy announced that they have let technical director Jovan Kirovski go. Now, many of you who don't follow soccer, and maybe even a lot of you who do follow soccer, are probably sitting there like, what the hell is a technical director, and why did this trend on social media in LA? Well, a technical director is responsible for things such as player recruitment, analytics, stuff like that. Doesn't necessarily call the shots, but puts everything in order for the people who do call the shots to be put in the best position. He's had the job since 2013, and pretty much the Galaxy have stunk like a water treatment facility for almost the entire time he was there. They've missed the playoffs, and by the way, it's not that hard to make MLS playoffs. They have missed the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. It was often seen as if Karofsky was inextricably linked to former club president Chris Klein, who was ousted last year after a massive fan boycott finally forced the Galaxy's hand. Banners were circling above the Galaxy Stadium, Dignity Health Sports Park. The banners trailing from a plane, demanding that Karofsky get fired just like Klein. Now, supporters like me, Galaxy fans like me, look at former Galaxy players, which, by the way, Klein and Karofsky are, and we like to tell ourselves, once a G, always a G. But let's be real. After a decade like this, you can still be a G. You just need to be a G on the unemployment line. It's crass, but it's unfortunate, but it's also true. Now, Karofsky did have teeny-weeny bits of success. For example, he lured Zlatan Ibrahimovic to the United States. He was able to lure Ricky Purge to the United States. But the Galaxy's current run, 9 years without reaching MLS Cup finals, is the longest in franchise history. A decade of woe has now come to an end. There is no more Chris Klein, there is no more Jovan Karofsky, but there are damn near half a dozen names currently linked to the Galaxy coming in as the team's final designated player. Now, I'm not going to address them because there's just far too many names. And honestly, when it's that many names from that many foreign soccer press outlets, which I don't trust, it just smacks of agents and or foreign teams trying to create a bidding war for the player and using the Galaxy as leverage, especially when you consider that the 5-time MLS Cup champs dropped $10 million earlier this week on Gabriel Peck from a Brazilian team. So somebody's coming in. We just don't know who the hell it is yet. So let's tap the brakes just a bit. It was literally just a year ago where we all wondered if Sean McVay was going to say to hell with it and retire with his gorgeous wife, who was basically pregnant with the first kid. Then half of a dozen assistant coaches got run. The front office gutted the defense. Does anybody else remember how we spent a big chunk of the summer just swatting away Rams trade rumors? Oh, they're going to trade Matthew Stafford. And yet they were 10-7. So how exactly did the remodel, remember they went out of their way to say it wasn't a rebuild, they specifically called it a remodel. How did all of it come together? Well, The Athletic sent a reporter out, and basically she interviewed a bunch of people with the Rams and noted the following as keys to the remodel that led to the surprising playoff berth. 1, a commitment to make the offensive line more physical. That was almost immediate. McVay addressed that by adding offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur and an offensive line coach Ryan Wendell. They changed the blocking schemes where instead of doing zone blocking, it was more of a power gap scheme. They also knew that even though they had 14 draft picks, they knew none of them were in the first round. So were any of these draft picks going to be pro ready? Hell no. So what they did was they prioritized things such as being teachable. And one thing you can't coach, speed. Next, practices were broken down to walkthroughs. And when I mean walkthroughs, I don't mean, hey, here's the playbook, we're going to show you where to line up. No. Straight down to, we are going to teach all of you how to drill. Again, not the playbook, not how to tackle, not how to block. They broke it down so basic, they wanted to teach these guys how to run drills, like running through the tires, things like that. Now, how did that attention to detail help, you might say? That sounds a little silly. But the Rams wound up being the 8th least penalized team in the league with a boatload of rookies because of the attention to detail. Then they noticed that there was this receiver, Puka Nacua, who really was wanting to learn from Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford took notice of that. And now you start to see how everything starts to build together, how they were getting some momentum. Now, I want you to understand, this remodel hasn't been perfect, not by any stretch. The special teams are actually pretty lousy. And McVay, I should say, still admits that he's a basket case about the whole damn thing. But he also added, quote, "I wasn't proud of the leader that I was throughout 2022 in terms of what the players and staff deserved. There were a lot of moments that I reflect upon. I didn't enjoy it and I wasn't proud of it. But man, did we need it," unquote. The Rams are back in the playoffs. They'll be in Detroit for Sunday Night Football. For reasons that I don't know, baseball trades where the primary assets are minor league prospects are getting rarer. Oh, minor leaguers, a bunch of them, you send them to another team for a major league stud. Yes, that happens. But trading a highly regarded prospect for another highly regarded prospect doesn't happen. Not so much. But the Dodgers actually did accomplish such a trade yesterday. And I believe it has a ripple effect on the rest of their offseason. Michael Busch is on his way to the Cubs, along with relief pitcher Yancy Almonte for pitching prospect Jackson Harris and outfielder Zahir Hope, both of the Chicago Cubs. Now, both of the Dodgers players that are going to Chicago, they each had a cup of coffee in the majors. Busch was the primary one that was sent out, but I did learn something about him in the process. The Athletic, in reporting the trade, called him a first baseman. All of this time, we were told that he would play second, that he would play third, maybe he would be playing the outfield. Busch was sent to those positions because he was having a really difficult time cracking the Dodgers lineup in the first place. Remember, his big ticket to the show was his bat. But first baseman, he's not supplanting Freddie Freeman. That's not happening. But even Andrew Friedman admitted Busch had no business staying at AAA. He needed his shot at the majors. And Chicago envisions him as a corner infielder. Now, as for what LA gets back, Hope is an athlete that's going to need work. Harris is likely the primary return. His problem, from what I've read, is his release point is inconsistent. Now, the reason that I said that this could impact the rest of the Dodgers offseason is because Busch, being so highly regarded, was listed as a guy who could be part of a bigger package that the Dodgers would allegedly send out for, say, White Sox starter Dylan Cease, Milwaukee starter Corbin Burns. Does this trade signal that the Dodgers aren't exactly thinking of those guys anymore? And speaking of our board, the one we've been keeping for months, the idiot scribe rumor board about the Dodgers, we got to wipe a name away. Marcus Stroman signed with the Yankees. So you're thinking, great, the list is getting shorter. Not so fast. Another scribe said the Dodgers were interested in Jesus Luzardo of the Marlins. Guys, when it comes to scribes and their gossiping, which leads to nowhere, it never ends. It never ends. The Dodgers also signed a former Marlins pitcher, Eliezer Hernandez, to a minor league deal. Basically, the guy's a reclamation project. Yes, I am aware that Bill Belichick is out as the coach of the New England Patriots. But I want to remind everyone, before you start envisioning the dude and his hoodie under the roof of SoFi Stadium as if it's 20 degrees in Southern California in September, I want to remind you that Bill Belichick has a record of 82-98 without Tom Brady. Then I want to remind you guys that his first coaching gig went so well that the Cleveland Browns left for Baltimore. I want to remind you guys that he allegedly wants $25 million a year. And then I want to remind you guys that he was the Patriots' de facto general manager, which might be too much power for the Spanos family to want to grant to one man. So I'm not saying they won't look at Bill Belichick. I'm just pretty skeptical that they're going to kill themselves to get Bill Belichick. The Bolts, meanwhile, do have an interview lined up with former Buffalo defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier for the head coaching gig, according to ESPN. Then the LA Times reported that they have already interviewed Brandon Brown of New York for the general manager gig and the Raiders defensive coordinator Patrick Graham for the head coaching job. We have been skeptical of any rumor where MLS Golden Boot winner Dennis Bouanga gets sent overseas. I very much am skeptical of that. And LAFC General Manager John Thorrington said as much as well. He said that it would take a, quote, hugely expensive transfer fee, unquote, to get Dennis Bouanga out of LA. Bouanga's contract, by the way, is for 2 more years in MLS. Former USC defensive end Corey Foreman, once the most sought-after high schooler in all the land, has decided to transfer to Fresno State. This guy was supposed to be can't miss. And I wanted him to be can't miss. I actually led some episodes back in the early days of Faithful Angelenos talking about what Corey Foreman has to do in order to finally realize his potential. I believed in him that much. And part of me still wants to say it's not all of his fault. If you remember, he was recruited by Clay Helton and his merry band of incompetence. But after Helton was ousted, then he was supposed to learn under Alex Grinch. I can't tell you for certain that anybody learned anything under Alex Grinch. But before we make excuses, we have to acknowledge Foreman simply didn't produce. The most tackles he ever had in a year was 13. He just didn't do his job. I mentioned the Idiot Scribe rumor board for the Dodgers. Please note, we also have a bunch of Idiot Scribe rumors about Laker trades, and we have added 3 names to that rumor board. There is a belief that any one of the names on the Laker side of the Idiot Scribe rumor board would provide either outside shooting or just good old-fashioned athleticism. And once again, I believe the scribes are idiots, that they're gossiping just like you and I do when we're trying to avoid working. So there's that. Angel City FC have signed midfielder Madison Hammond to a 2-year deal. She said she signed because she wanted to build on last year's playoff berth. She has been extremely flexible with the team, a very good teammate. She's played both fullback and midfield. And also, by the way, Angel City FC have hired an assistant coach, longtime MLS player Lee Wen, who also played for LAFC. So you let me know, though, what you think in the comments thread. There's a lot to talk about. Does USC season end without Isaiah Collier? How optimistic are you in the Galaxy now that everything that was bad and old has been completely ripped away? What about the Rams remodel? What about the Dodger trade? And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Quian Corte El Queso production. Take care.